rest of y'all about the recent reports that we've seen about TDA in Colorado. Was it a concern that you feel like these folks are coming up through Texas into other states? And maybe if you could address some of what former President Trump has talked about, because he's been talking about this as a national problem. Are you trying to sort of cut that off in Texas?
So obviously what happened in Colorado was very serious. Obviously what happened in El Paso is very serious. Obviously we now have either suspected or documented TDA members in the state of Texas. We know for what's happening nationally as well as internationally, the seriousness of TDA. We know that if we don't stop this now, it could spread rapidly across our state, endangering people across our state. We want to get ahead of that process and cut this off right now and make sure TDA understands when they come to the state of Texas, they're going to face the heavy hand of law enforcement with a robust, literally hundreds, if you count all the local law enforcement, thousands of law enforcement officers who are focused on TDA. They have a target on their back and we're going after them. We have one goal, and that is to arrest them and make them understand that Texas is the wrong state for them to be trying to do business in.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Governor, thank you for having this briefing. I was curious about the timing of addressing TDA now. It's been in the news in Colorado, obviously, and former President Trump and J.D. Vance had mentioned it on the campaign. Can you address the timing of this and why you're bringing it up now?
Well, because over the past year, we've seen slow but increasing activity by TDA in our state. As I pointed out, several months ago, we began the arrests of TDA or suspected TDA members in the state of Texas. With the increased flow, we've had to not only expand our efforts, but add to the crackdown by doing things like declaring them a foreign terrorist organization, using enhanced tools, using these anti-gang centers to prioritize. Their top job at the anti-gang centers is to go after these TDA members. The fact of the matter is, this is something that has exploded in the aftermath of when the president said, if you're from Venezuela, you're going to be allowed into the United States. As Mike Banks was explaining, as also Colonel McCraw were explaining, there is no database. Like if Border Patrol, arrest or encounters a person from Venezuela, they may think or suspect that could be a TDA member, but there's no database to be able to determine that and confirm that. Part of this effort now, because of the increased number of military-aged men from Venezuela crossing our border who seem to have all the characteristics of a TDA member, we are going about the process of establishing that database so we can track them, follow them, and see what their modus of operation is, so that hopefully they will lead to documentation of verified TDA members that also can lead to arrests and putting them behind.
To make matters even worse, Biden is even fighting tooth and nail to stop Texas and other Republican states from securing our own borders. I deployed thousands of National Guard soldiers to build hundreds of miles of razor wire barriers. Give it up for our National Guard. They built those barriers to stop illegal crossings. When Joe Biden ordered to cut that razor wire, I ordered the National Guard to triple the razor wire on the border. When Biden took 50 acres of Texas border property to illegally process up to 5,000 illegal immigrants a day, I directed the Texas National Guard to take back our land and wire it shut. Now, there's no longer 5,000 people crossing the border like there was under Joe Biden. Now that the National Guard wired that shut, on average, there is one illegal immigrant crossing the border at that location a day. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refused to even come to Texas and to see the border crisis that they created, I took the border to them. I began busing illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. And we have continued busing migrants to sanctuary cities across the entire country. And those buses will continue to roll until we finally secure our border.
Are made. We are the economic engine of the United States of America. We consistently rank number one for the most new jobs. We are number one for exports. We are number one rated by CEOs as the best state for doing business. Texas is number one for oil and gas production, number one for the most new economic development projects, and, important for today, Texas is number one among all the states in the United States for trade with Mexico. Our partnership with Mexico is geographically profound and significant, but just as much, it is economically profound and productive for both Texas and Mexico and Coahuila. The Texas legend, however, long predates our current success. Before Texas joined the United States in 1845, Texans are proud to have fought and won our own independence in 1836, becoming our own country, the Republic of Texas. Less known is what preceded Texas winning its own independence, because it was 200 years ago this year what eventually became the state of Texas was part of a separate state, Coahuila y Tejas. Today we celebrate the 200th anniversary of that historic union. We do so with renewed vigor and enterprise. We are now in separate countries, but we remain committed to the core values that promote economic success and achievement for the people of our two states. We know that through collaboration, we can make our states stronger and more powerful. We do that through economic collaboration. We do that through public safety and border security collaboration. We do that knowing that our collaborative success will make our countries more stronger. Coahuila is a friend to the state of Texas. It has been a powerful economic partner. But with the signing of the agreement 2 years ago, Coahuila also partnered in greater security for our two states. Today we expand that agreement as we sign a new statement of mutual cooperation. This statement we are about to sign codifies our mutual agreement to strengthen the economies and job growth of our two states through the power of economic collaboration. It charts a pathway to 200 more years of collaboration that will make our states even stronger. I'm proud to be joined by Governor Jimenez, and at this time, turn over the microphone to Governor Jimenez.
Gracias.
Welcome.
Honorable. Thank you very much. An applause. Thank you, my friend Governor Greg Abbott, to you and the First Lady, Cecilia, for receiving us here in this beautiful house that represent a lot of history of this great state, where the past governors make many decisions, and where we are sure you work every day hard for the people of Texas, and you work in the greatness of this state. I think this is the best place to make another chapter of the history between Texas and Coahuila, and I think this is the best place to celebrate these 200 years of history. Thank you very much, Governor Abbott, to you, to your family, to your team for receiving us. We have lots of people of Coahuila. We have businessmen from our state, leaders of important companies. We have the mayors of the most important cities of our state. And also we have congressmen and congresswomen that are here with us. So thank you very much for receiving us in this beautiful house. Last October, we had a meeting here with Governor Abbott. I was governor-elect, and we were talking about many things about our states. Important things like the wine, that we produce really delicious wine in both of our states. We talk about our friendship or economy, but I remember a phrase that Governor Abbott said that I was completely on that channel. I agree with him. We said that true friendship is built upon actions, not just words. So since that visit, we made some commitments that we have made the trust between us get stronger. And we focus on the most important topics for our state, or our states. There is economy, tourism, culture, migration, and security. With this second meeting, we are reaffirming the commitment we made last year to keep our efforts focused and concrete strategies and collaborations. So, Governor Abbott, I think we are ready to take the relationship between Texas and Coahuila to the next level.
Yes, absolutely.
In this visit to Texas, we have three main goals that I was talking with Governor Abbott. The first one is to celebrate, to have a fiesta, to have a meeting where we can share our gastronomy and our wines, because these 200 years are full of history. We were called many years ago Coahuiltejanos, so I think it's a good thing to celebrate today. Second, the second purpose is to have an economic tour. We know that Texas is a powerful state, and we want to take the ties, or make the ties stronger between our economy and the economy of Texas. We are going to visit San Antonio, we're going to visit Dallas, and we're going to visit Houston with some meetings. And the third is to establish the work plan that we are formalizing today through the signing of this statement of mutual cooperation, which will allow us to continue strengthening our bilateral relationship between the government of Texas and Coahuila. Texas is the strongest economy of the U.S. And Texas is one of the 10 more biggest economy in the world. And Coahuila stands strong among Mexico's states. We are one of the 3 safest and more competitive states in Mexico. We have one of the highest level of labor formality and education. And we are also leaders in exports and we have the largest automobile cluster in our country. Also, we are also among the states with the highest GDP per capita. Today, with this special meeting, we are making our relationship stronger, which reaches back 200 years, when we were born as the state of Coahuila, Texas. At that time, as I said, we were Coahuiltejanos. And we have something in common. Our flag on those years, it was a flag with 2 stars. So the most prominent and the most shining star of the U.S. is Texas. And the other star that shines in Mexico is Coahuila. So this year, with this meeting, we want to make our relationship stronger, our friendship stronger, our collaboration with more strength. We have special topics: the tourism, culture, economy, migration, and security. So we are ready to keep working on those important things for our people. We also are opening an office for Coahuila here in Austin. We are opening the office of Pro Coahuila that is near here, the governor's mansion, and near the Capitol, so we can work every day looking for opportunities and also to open the door of Coahuila to all the Texans to do many things for the good of our people. Also, we have an invitation, Governor. We want to invite you to Coahuila. We are a tierra norteña. Orlando is from the north. We like hats. The governor gave me a really beautiful hat just a few minutes ago, and I told him that we like hats, we like boots, we like ranches, we like horse riding. So it will be a pleasure for us to receiving you, your wife, your family, your team to Coahuila. There is many things to see from the economic part, but also Coahuila is beautiful. You can go through the desert, to the mountains, to the forest, and it's a beautiful land to visit. So I hope we can also make a toast with wine from Coahuila in our land. I want finally to tell you that we are so pleased to be here for the signing of this agreement, through which we formally commit to strengthen the bonds of brotherhood that our states share. Thank you for receiving us again. Mexico and the United States, we are the most important trade partners, and Coahuila and Texas, we share that too, with exportations and exportations. And as we said in Coahuila, with the Texas brothers, vamos pa adelante, a pasos de gigante. We go forward on giant steps. Thank you very much, Governor, and we're ready to work for Texas and for Coahuila.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
Sign these.
Yes.
Trey. Thank you. Thanks. There we go. Hold them up.
Thank you so much, Governor Abbott, Governor Jimenez. Muchas gracias. This concludes this segment of today's program. Thank you all for joining. And ladies and gentlemen, if you will move over to the tent, we'll begin the luncheon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you, President Trump, for being back in Texas. You being here shows that today is a day of an extraordinary contrast. We have President Trump back in the state of Texas, literally on the border itself, a place that he's been to many times, talking about all the things that he's done to secure the border. At the very same time, we have President Biden down in Brownsville, Texas, which was an obligatory visit by him. He'd never been to the border. In fact, I don't think he's on the border itself right now. He's in some sanitized location in the Brownsville area, not seeing the razor wire that Texas has put up around Brownsville. And he announced that he was going to Brownsville after it was already known that President Trump was coming to the state of Texas. It just goes to show that Biden does not care about either Texas or the border and what's going on. As a result, you see a disaster. The United States of America is dealing with more deadly consequences than we have in our entire lifetime because of Joe Biden's policies on the border. And it did not have to be this way. As President Trump just talked, there were 4 policies that he put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in about 4 decades. The end of catch and release, the Title 42 policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, and building the border wall. All Joe Biden had to do to secure the border was to keep in place what President Trump put in place in the first place. But instead, what Joe Biden did, he signed executive orders eliminating all of the effective policies that President Trump put in place. And then Joe Biden did something even worse. Joe Biden lied to America when he told America that he needed Congress to pass laws for him to be able to do something about the border. Because there are 3 laws that Congress has already passed that are on the books right now that Biden could and should enforce. One is a law that requires the Biden administration to deny illegal entry into the United States, like what Texas is doing right here and like what President Trump did. He's not denying illegal entry. President Biden is aiding and abetting illegal entry. The second law requires the president's administration to detain anybody who does get here illegally. Biden is not detaining them. He's releasing them across the entire country. The third law that Congress already has on the books is a law that requires the Biden administration to build border barriers like what Texas has built, like what President Trump has built. And Biden not only is not building any borders, Biden is using every tool that he can to tear down the borders that Texas is putting up in our state. And because what Biden is doing has endangered our country, as President Trump was telling you the stories, not a week goes by without an American either losing their life, being raped or assaulted by somebody that Biden has allowed in our country illegally. The fact of the matter is, because of Joe Biden's policies and the more than 8 million people who have crossed the border, the United States of America is being invaded. And because Joe Biden is not doing his job to step up and secure the border, Texas has invoked the authority provided to us in Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution to declare an invasion and for Texas to defend ourselves from the crimes that are being caused by Joe Biden. Very quickly, here's what Texas is doing. Texas is the only state in the history of America to build our own border wall. And we did not reinvent the wheel. We're just building the very same wall that President Trump put up. Second, we deployed those big orange buoys into the Rio Grande that are effective at denying illegal entry. And Joe Biden filed a lawsuit to try to put a stop to it. Even though that lawsuit is tied up in the courts right now, those buoys remain in the Rio Grande River as we speak right now. The third thing is we have tremendous members of the Texas National Guard led by General Seltzer. And General, thank you. And also I want to take this time to thank Martin Freeman from the Texas Department of Public Safety and Mike Banks, where we have our own border czar. Mike Banks has spent more time as the Texas border czar in one day than the United States Border Czar has spent in her entire tenure. And I want to thank Mike Banks for his job as a former Border Patrol agent and now as the Texas Border Czar. But what our National Guard has done, they have sealed off this entire park and taken it over, because this area was being used by the Biden administration to violate the laws of the United States of America. And I said, I will not allow this Texas land to be used by the Biden administration to violate American laws. And I asked the National Guard to take it over, and they did in one day. But this is the important fact. Since they took it over, the number of people that used to come across the border before were 3,000, 4,000, sometimes 5,000 people a day. Now, since this park has been taken over and wired shut, there is on average about 6 or 7 people coming across a day. Most of them are in violation of state law for trespassing, and they are arrested when they come into this park. And so for all practical purposes, this part of the border is sealed. Same goes for where Joe Biden is right now. Where Joe Biden is on the night that Joe Biden lifted Title 42. Brownsville, Texas was ground zero where people were crossing across the border illegally. And immediately, the Texas National Guard wired that shut. So an area during the time of Joe Biden before Title 42 was, or when Title 42 was lifted, there were thousands of people coming across the border. Now there is on average about 14 people crossing the border in that area. And that's because the Texas National Guard has wired it shut. Because we are having to do so much to secure our border, that's exactly why 5 miles south of here, Texas has now launched its own Texas National Guard military base that will house 2,300 Texas National Guard. So they will be able to more swiftly and more effectively continue to secure our border. And the last thing I'll say is this: unless and until Joe Biden steps up and does his job, that he has the power to do already to enforce the laws of the United States of America, Texas will continue to bus those migrants to sanctuary cities all across the United States of America. But I am very thankful for the model set by President Trump. President Trump showed that when he was in office, he was able to secure the border. And I know that when he is reelected as our president, our border will once again be secured. So thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Sure. At this time,
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. This way. Thank you, press. Thank
Good morning. I want to thank everybody for being with us here today for a very important announcement. Also want to thank the participants with me at the table. To my right, we have the Texas Border Czar, Mike Banks. To my left is the Director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, Steve McCraw. And we also have with us Chris Cabrera, the Vice President for the National Border Patrol Council. We're here today to talk about a dangerous, maybe even a deadly threat facing both our state as well as our country. It's the recent entry and expansion of the vicious Venezuela gang known as Tren de Aragua, also known as TDA. Officials are concerned about what is going on with TDA. Its recent expansion and entry of this gang could destabilize public safety in the United States as well as in the state of Texas. For us, in law enforcement across the state, our top priority is the security and the safety of our fellow Texans. This is a nonpartisan, bipartisan issue that everybody agrees upon, that we need to aggressively address this threatening challenge. TDA is characterized as MS-13 on steroids. TDA is the largest criminal organization in Venezuela. It started as a prison gang in the state of Aragua, Venezuela, and has now expanded to a transnational criminal organization. Now they are dominating the international flow of migrants from South America through Mexico into the United States. I'm not seeing that one up here. Well, if you look at two maps over, or two charts over from me, that shows South America to the U.S., that shows the current status of the flow and operation of TDA across South America, Central America, and now North America. TDA is notorious for their brutal violence and murder, and their kidnapping, extortion, bribery, and trafficking of drugs, weapons, and even humans. They've been linked to more than 100 law enforcement investigations across the country. They were involved in the brutal attack and assault upon New York Police Department law enforcement officers. Reports have also linked TDA to the murder of Lincoln Riley. Intelligence reports show TDA has been given the green light to shoot law enforcement officers in the United States. In other countries infiltrated by TDA, history has shown they first flood the countries with military-age Venezuelan men. Next, they begin to establish a base of operations. Finally, TDA begins a spree of violent and bloody criminal activity. We've now seen the beginnings of these operations in the state of Texas. The second to last map that you see on your left-hand side are locations in the state of Texas where we have identified either known or suspected TDA activity in the state of Texas. Since 2021, more than 3,000 illegal immigrants from Venezuela have been arrested in Texas, and another more than 200 are wanted. There is currently no TDA database to be able to verify if these arrests are of TDA members or non-TDA members. So, what the Texas Department of Public Safety is working on, as well as other law enforcement, they're working to create a database from scratch. They're doing that by watching for suspected TDA activity that matches the known methods of operation of confirmed TDA activity in other countries. We will build that database by looking at common traits shared by TDA. You see on a chart right here some of those characteristics. They include tattoos, scars, marks, types of crime, methods of operation. Now, importantly, today, I'm announcing what Texas is doing to stop the spread of TDA in our state. I ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to launch a statewide operation directly targeting TDA to deter and to disrupt their criminal operations in Texas. DPS is collaborating with federal and local law enforcement through the Texas Anti-Gang Centers. When I became governor of Texas, there was one anti-gang center to crack down on gang activity in our state. Today, there are now 9 anti-gang centers across the state in Dallas, Fort Worth, El Paso, Houston, Laredo, Lubbock, McAllen, San Antonio, Tyler, and Waco. You will see those locations on this map over here. Also, I signed laws that provide more than $100 million to support these anti-gang centers over just the next 2 years. But to more directly target TDA, I directed DPS to elevate TDA to a Tier 1 gang, the worst of the worst, ensuring that DPS deploys the resources that are needed to corral this growing menace. Already, we're making arrests of suspected TDA members. For example, recently El Paso residents were concerned about criminal activity at the Gateway Hotel in El Paso. In the last few months, DPS special agents worked with the El Paso Police Department gang units to arrest criminal activity at and around El Paso's Gateway Hotel. More than 20 arrests were made, many of whom were suspected TDA members for charges that include human smuggling, prostitution, possession of illegal drugs, as well as other crimes. And now, the Gateway Hotel in El Paso has been shut down. And earlier this year, more than 100 suspected TDA members were arrested after the riots at the El Paso border when immigrants assaulted the Texas National Guard. Also today, I am officially declaring TDA a foreign terrorist organization. We will bring the full weight of the government against the TDA. By declaring TDA a foreign terrorist organization, Texas will use the courts to halt their operations, use civil asset forfeiture to take their property, use enhanced criminal penalties to keep them in jail behind bars for longer periods of time. At this time, I'm going to sign that proclamation. Texas is aggressively going after these foreign terrorist organizations of TDA. Texas will also use a newly passed law in our state to impose a mandatory minimum of at least 10 years behind bars against TDA gang members who smuggle people into Texas. Also, I directed the DPS to create a new TDA strike team made of highway patrol officers, DPS special agents, Texas Rangers, SWAT teams, including aircraft, helicopters, and drones, K-9 teams, and intelligence units. These strike teams will collaborate with Texas Anti-Gang Center law enforcement officers to surge resources to areas where known or suspected TDA activity is taking place. Together, they will seek to identify and arrest TDA gang members. Our goal among law enforcement in the state of Texas is to defend our state from the growing threat of TDA. We are not going to allow them to use Texas as a base of operations to terrorize our citizens. Texas is a law and order state, and I will ensure that law enforcement has every tool they need to keep
Texas is going to put it to use. Very effective. Very effective. He has denied everything that works. If it works, he's against it. You're right. You're right about that. So this is showing you. They like Trump. Can you believe it? They like the government.
that's financial beneficial for them to send them and to keep them.
Another thing.
All right, guys, let's go.
Operation Lone Star for Texas to step up and do what the Biden administration is failing to do. And that's very simply to enforce the laws that are already on the books. Already on the books are laws that require the president to deny illegal entry, to detain anybody who does cross illegally, and then to build border barriers. He's not doing any of it. Texas is doing all of it. One thing that the National Guard and the Texas Military Department have done prolifically, in addition to the state building its own border wall, what the National Guard have done, they have built more than 100 miles of razor wire border barrier, anti-climb barrier, and other barriers that deny illegal entry into our state. And it physically puts the National Guard in a position where they're able to effectively repel and turn back people who are trying to cross the border illegally. And then, of course, there's what they did just up the road from where we are right now in Eagle Pass, Texas, in Shelby Park. About a 50-acre park is an area where sometimes the Biden administration was allowing 4,000 to 5,000 people cross a day illegally just in that one park area. The National Guard wired it shut. Now, as opposed to having 4,000 or 5,000 people crossing a day, in the last 2 months, for example, there's been an average of only about 2 people crossing the border in that 50-acre park a day. And most of those people are arrested by the Texas Department of Public Safety. If you look more broadly at what the state has been able to achieve because of the leadership, not just of General Seltzer, but because of the actions by the men and women who serve under him in the National Guard, in the Texas Military Department. You can see that over the past year, over the past 2 years, illegal immigration has increased in New Mexico, Arizona, and California. At the very same time, it has gone down in the state of Texas by about 72%. That's a result of the deterrence that's been established by the Texas National Guard. And that brings us to the point that why we gather today. The troops that have been involved in this mission, especially in this particular region, they've been scattered for miles around this entire region, having to drive long distances to go to work every day and then drive back to wherever they're staying that particular night. At the end of the day, it was a very inefficient methodology to house the large number of National Guard troops who are deployed to the border. This base camp is a far superior strategy that, for one, will allow the state to be able to have our troops right on the border itself, but for another, provide the type of housing and other standards of living that improve the quality of life for the men and women who are wearing our uniform, who are serving on our border. What you're looking at is phase 1 of this 80-acre project. Phase 1, soldiers are moving in today. In phase 1, it'll be about 300 soldiers moving in today. Phase 2 will be completed about 2 weeks from today. And when you have about another 300 soldiers moving in, that process will continue all the way until November, until we have this entire area with soldiers that can, at that time, house up to at least 1,700 soldiers, with the capability of increasing that on an as-needed basis. But I want to thank General Seltzer for his leadership on getting this done, knowing that he has already achieved success that no other state has ever been able to achieve in securing the sovereignty and safety not just of their state, but also of our country. But also he's been a leader as the general of these troops, having their back, making sure they have the highest quality of living so that they will have the highest quality of mental capacity as they go through battle every single day against those who are entering our state illegally. My gratitude to you, General, for getting that done. And just know that Texas will not stop until we gain full operational control of the border in the state of Texas. General Seltzer.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. What you are seeing here today, like the Governor said, is phase one of 6 phases that will culminate in the construction of 95 buildings on this 80-acre complex. Each phase will take approximately 30 days, and each phase adds about 300 troops to this base. The exception to this is phase 2. Phase 2 will be complete in 15 days from today because many of those structures are already being started on this base. So mid-June, you'll see another 300 troops getting off their buses and filling into this base. If you want to see a depiction off to your right, the magenta buildings on that graphic are phase 1. The yellow is phase 2. And you can see the magnitude of all 6 phases once it's built out based on what you can just see here from phase 1. What you don't see in phase 1 is below the surface. So this was essentially a farm, and the land's been tilled and rolled. All this gravel's been put down. Sewer, water, a fire hydrant system, and preparations also for being connected to the electrical grid in the city. So we'll be on complete city sewer, water, hydrant system, and then eventually electricity. Also in this phase, central to it was the perimeter fencing. Quite a large project. You can see impressive fencing with razor wire, camera systems, and light systems. Just looking around us here, you have the dining facility. It can seat 700 people at a time. This is a pavilion. The picnic tables you see behind you are really supposed to be here where we're sitting. This can be used for picnic tables, outings, put up a basketball goal, or formations. And then the pad behind you is actually the location of a fixed building that will be the gymnasium, and that will be complete in phase 2. Additionally, what we went and toured is we have 2 types of dormitories. We have the large dormitories with 34 rooms. Minimum square footage in there is 118 square feet, but every soldier will have their own room on this base. Additionally, we have staff rooms that have a larger bed, have a kitchenette, and have a shower and a bathroom. Again, for one service member. There will be no doubled up service members in this location. I'd like to move on to why we are doing this. The governor already alluded to it. It's operationally more effective and efficient to build this base here. It's right in the middle of the 1,254 miles of border that we're taking operational control of, as the governor said. He also spoke of troop travel time. Many of the troops you saw today are coming from a base in Carrizo Springs that's 45, 50, maybe by military vehicle, an hour away. So they have an hour transit time just to get to the border. Some of these 300 troops, too, are also coming from northern base camp, some 30 minutes to an hour away. So it's operationally efficient to have them on this border. And again, in this area, we're not just taking control and managing Shelby Park. We have 13 projects well north, well south of Shelby Park, where in conjunction with landowners who want to stop illegal immigration on their property, we're putting up anti-climb barrier and concertina wire. The other aspect of operational efficiency is we are going to move the Joint Task Force Operation Lone Star, the military headquarters, to this forward operating base. It's currently located in McAllen. It will relocate here. Along with that, we'll also relocate a maintenance hub that's in another area of the border. So now at this major base, you have a Joint Task Force headquarters, you will have a maintenance hub, and then also in all the the area behind us, you also have a place where we keep most of our logistical supplies. So it's operationally more efficient and effective. The second point is it's fiscally sound. It's a fiscally sound way to house soldiers and airmen. During the course of these 6 phases, by the time this project's over, we will have shut down 3 other base camps. Additionally, we will be moving in soldiers that are staying in hotels around in regional areas. Again, these are some hotels in small towns. The last thing you want as a commander is to have your troops dispersed in hotels around the region. So we're bringing all these people in. And I will tell you that our hotel rates, expenses since 2021 have gone up 30%. So again, it's a fiscally sound reason to do this and bring the soldiers here. We estimate that once this base camp is full and we have everybody out of those hotels and the 3 base camps shut down, we will save $11.5 million a month on housing soldiers. And that doesn't even include the fuel that they're using right now to drive and get to the border. And then lastly, and most obviously, it improves the quality of life for our personnel. I came out here yesterday. We ate in the dining facility. They were doing a rehearsal to make sure they were ready for those 300 troops today. And that staff in there is super excited to serve our soldiers. They have a chef, Chef Steve. And he's a veteran. In 2018, he was awarded the Armed Forces Chef of the Year Award. So they're having chef-served meals in that dining facility. But most importantly, for quality of life, again, they will all have their single room. One aspect of the military is we spend a lot of time together. We sleep together mostly, we eat together, we go to work together, in which the greatest thing you can do for soldiers is give them that one bit of privacy when they lay their head down at night. And then lastly, just have a couple thank yous. Thank you to the city of Eagle Pass. There's 18 different building permits that had to be permitted for this base camp. The sewage, the plumbing, everything has to be permitted and certified and inspected. And so this is a big project for a city the size of Eagle Pass. So we really appreciate their help in doing all that. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Texas legislature for funding Operation Lone Star. If we weren't appropriately funded, this would not exist because we would have to piecemeal this together, which again is inefficient and expensive. So thank you to the Texas legislature. And then finally, thank you to Governor Abbott. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your relentless efforts to secure our border. And most of all today, thank you for taking care of our troops.
Absolutely. Thank you, General. So the United States has a United States border czar. And as far as I know, the United States border czar has actually never been to the border and seen people cross illegally. Well, Texas decided we need our own border czar, someone who actually knows the border. And we were able to hire someone who worked in the Border Patrol himself for more than 2 decades. And he's been a hands-on border czar, actively and aggressively working from the border from the Rio Grande Valley all the way to El Paso, providing the state of Texas with a high level of expertise and information and advice, allowing us to operate more effectively and more efficiently, and it's Mike Banks. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. So let me start off. I want to cover something that the Governor covered a while ago. 72%. We have decreased traffic by 72% in the state of Texas, while we're seeing traffic go up in California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Now, are we ready to declare victory? Absolutely not, right? We still got a ways to go. But as we become more and more efficient and we see less and less traffic, we've got to be able to move swiftly to that threat as it continues to move and adjust to us. Having this base here makes us that. It makes us more efficient. It makes us more mobile. It puts all the troops together. And so I can tell you, I spent 10 years in the U.S. Navy, and I've never had a dining facility quite like this. I wish I would have had one this well. This is an outstanding base. Team Housing has done a phenomenal job. The crew in the dining facility, the living facilities is just phenomenal. And I want to give you one more number that I think that is very important. In the last 2 years, we've seen the traffic consistently decrease in Texas due to the efforts of Operation Lone Star with the soldiers and with DPS. By midnight tonight, Texas will have seen the lowest number of border crossings in 2 years since May of 2022. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep adjusting that threat. And having this base here is going to allow us to be more efficient, to more swiftly move back and forth. And it's just smart for taxpayers because, like the General said, we are saving taxpayers millions of dollars while improving the quality of life for our soldiers, right, who are continuing to fight and do this mission. And so we're going to keep pushing hard. We're going to keep adjusting to the threat. And this is going to help us be more efficient in doing so.
Thank you very much. We'll take a few questions. Go ahead. Well, so the desire to maintain control of Shelby Park is not long-term. That's a park that the residents of that community deserve to be able to use like they did before. But we got to remember this. When there were 5,000 people coming across the border a day into that park, the residents of Eagle Pass were not able to use that park. So the time that will come is going to be when there is operational control of the border in a way that restores the normalcy to Eagle Pass, Texas, the way that it's been for more than 100 years. I believe if we have a president in place who's going to enforce the laws that deny illegal entry into the United States of America, that will be a time when the residents of Eagle Pass will be able to get their park back. Sure. I'll answer the second question. I'll have the general answer the first question. So why is this needed? The fact of the matter is the people who are in charge of bringing people across the border illegally are the drug cartels. The drug cartels haven't closed down business. They haven't gone away. They're going to remain in operational control of the northern border of Mexico for a long time. The moment that we ratchet back the resistance that Texas has is the moment that the cartels will start shifting migrants away from Arizona to New Mexico and shift them right back into the state of Texas. And so we can not relent in our security of the border unless we have a president who's actually going to fully enforce the laws of the United States. And I cannot be more clear about what I'm about to say. There are 3 laws on the books already passed by Congress already that were inherited by Joe Biden that he simply is not complying with. One requires the president and his administration to deny illegal entry. The other is to detain anybody who does cross illegally. And the third is to build border barriers. He's not doing any of those 3 things that are required by law passed by Congress. Unless and until we have a president who does that, Texas is going to have to remain vigilant and use this as our primary staging base in the center of our border to make sure that Texas is doing everything possible to maintain operational control of the border in the state of Texas.
Well, to the second question, we have a contractor who does the hiring. It is my assumption that most of these people are coming from the local community due to the region that we're in. And the kind of second piece of that is this will be a great economic engine for this community as these soldiers move in and eat in the restaurants, go to the churches, buy gas in the gas stations. So we hope to have a great partnership with this community.
Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of questions here. So the first one, this morning there was the second breach in 8 days on Rockland Air Force Base involving smuggling today. That, from what I understand, the driver and the individual immigrants are still outstanding, and they breached several gates. Now, again, this is the second time in 8 days. What is the concern, if any, from the state, and what should the federal government be doing to secure that? And how can you make sure that that doesn't happen here, that human smuggling events aren't on this base?
So you mentioned breaches of a military base here in Texas. To be clear, it's not just in the state of Texas where there have been breaches of military bases by people who have come across the border illegally. It's happened in other states also. And the reason why it's happening is because we have a federal government that's not securing our federal military bases and not securing the border that allows people to cross the border illegally and to penetrate those military bases. It's just outrageous that the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America is not putting national security forefront, and a core component of national security is securing our military installations. So it shows how chaotic and non-compliant the President and the federal government are with regards to the immigration system that allows our military bases to be invaded. It's the federal government in charge of those military bases. Whenever something like that happens, though, we as a state escalate our activity to add even more support to the border areas where people may be getting across that would allow that penetration to take place.
And what would you do to ensure that that doesn't happen here on the state level at this base?
Well, I can assure you, we can only hope that someone would try to invade this base, because they would be apprehended immediately and prosecuted immediately. That said, we have a singular goal, and that's to continue to deny illegal entry, to provide not only the Department of Public Safety but also the National Guard with the tools and the strategies that actually make them more capable of denying illegal entry into our country and into our state. Goal one is to go beyond having a decline of 72% of people crossing the border, is a decline of 100% of people crossing the border. And because of the way that the National Guard is going to continue to expand their operations, building border barrier, and then backing up that border barrier with National Guard troops who are armed with the tactics and the tools to be able to deny illegal entry, that will help us to continue to reduce the numbers of illegal immigration into the state of Texas. You say if they are what?
I mean, what I'm saying is, okay, the press spirit. Is this just some sort of strength in the way that because of their uniform, the military, that would be a terrorist? What is, if they arrest people, if they shoot people, what can they do and what they cannot do?
So the Texas National Guard, Texas Military Department, working in conjunction with the Texas Department of Public Safety, together, they have proven that they can successfully deny illegal entry into the state of Texas, into the United States, and those who do make it in are arrested and put in jail. It's a criminal violation for people to cross the barriers that have been constructed by the Texas National Guard. It's criminal trespass that will land them in jail, and that will make them subject to deportation, to repeat offender status, to all kinds of things that can increase any future imprisonment for any future violation. So what they're doing, they being the National Guard and Texas Department of Public Safety are doing, is proven by the reduction of crossings, by going from 5,000 to only 2 people a day crossing in Eagle Pass in Shelby Park, from the reduction of 72% of people crossing illegally in the state of Texas, while at the very same time the cartels have shifted those crossers to New Mexico, to California, to Arizona. So it's going up in other states that are posing no resistance, but it's going down in the state of Texas, where we have denied illegal entry into our state.
Let's say they find confront cartel people. Can they shoot back?
So arrests are made all the time. People who are working in collaboration with the cartels, the number of smugglers who have been arrested by the Texas Department of Public Safety has gone up, which I'm surprised about for this reason. I signed a law that imposes a mandatory minimum of 10 years behind bars for any of these smugglers who are arrested. Despite that law that's going to put these people behind bars for a very long time, the number of arrests of people on the Texas side involved in smuggling who work in collaboration with the cartels has gone up. Our job is to make sure we continue to make those arrests until we get all those people off the streets.
One more question. How much of the border, Maverick County border, is the military department securing along with the EPA?
Yeah, so how much of the Maverick County border is secured? Yeah.
The short answer is all of it.
Okay.
All of it?
Yes. So we have troops along the Maverick County border, and again, where
Correct.
exactly, and what I talked about is we have 13 projects either completed or underway or in the works.
Thank you.
All right.
Is this facility on an as-needed basis, or is it a permanent facility that, if and when the border crisis is over, we can do some other things?
So listen, no one knows the future of what's going to happen. The reality is this is a base that's going to be needed as long as people are crossing the border illegally into the state of Texas. And if you can tell me when that will end, that'd be fabulous. Thank you. Since America had borders, it's all because Joe Biden allowed this entire area to be penetrated by the drug cartels that smuggled in illegal immigrants. If you see an area that is boxed off by a container that has razor wire on the container or on the ground or on the fence, those are areas that illegal immigrants were once able to cross that are now unable to cross. And the reason why we've been able to achieve that level of decrease in illegal crossings is only because of great teamwork in agencies across the state of Texas. First, an update about some numbers from the Texas Department of Public Safety. They have made over 39,000 criminal arrests. They have apprehended more than 480,000 illegal migrants. They have deterred more than 95,000 illegal entries and engaged in more than 4,300 bailouts. They have filed more than 19,000 charges for smuggling. Those charges for smuggling now face a new consequence because of members of the legislature who stand behind me. They passed a bill that I signed into law that increases the mandatory minimum time behind bars for smugglers to 10 years. If you smuggle somebody into or through and across the state of Texas illegally, you'll be spending a long time behind bars. In addition to what the Texas Department of Public Safety has been doing, we've also had unprecedented success by the Texas National Guard. They have more than 1 million encounters with illegal immigrants. They have turned back more than 90,000 people who were trying to get into the country illegally. In addition to what they're doing through other agencies and in part through what the National Guard themselves are doing, there have been more than 160 miles altogether of barriers placed up, not counting the border wall. They include the razor wire, fencing, anti-climb barriers, these Connex boxes, and the buoys that are in the river. Those together add up to more than 160 miles of barriers that have been placed up. Also, Texas is the first and only state in the history of the United States of America to build our own border wall. If you look at the amount of wall already constructed and the amount of wall that is going to be under construction, Texas will have built more of the Trump border wall than even Trump built in the state of Texas. Now, the results are amazing. If you look at what has changed with regard to illegal border crossings in the past half year or so, you see that even though Texas represents about 2/3 of the border, we represent only about 30% of the crossings. The lead crossing areas are California, Arizona, and New Mexico that represent 70% of the crossings. Now, unlike before, migrants are choosing to go to states other than Texas. And that's because Texas has put up the resistance that it has. Early on, under the Biden administration, most of the migrants were coming through Texas. That's not true. The same is true for this area that we gather in right now. If you look at this massive park area, this is an area where you would regularly see 2,000, 3,000, maybe 4,000 people crossing the border illegally. Since this park has been taken over by the National Guard, the daily average is under 10 a day. It shows that deterrence can achieve results at decreasing illegal immigration. The only reason why it's not happening is because the President of the United States is not enforcing the laws that are already on the books. He does not need more laws. He has the tools in his toolbox to do exactly what Texas is doing, and that's to deny illegal entry into the country, which he is required to do by laws already passed by Congress. Part of the teamwork that we're seeing is tremendous leadership by the Texas National Guard. To look forward about where we are going, we are working with the Texas National Guard on strategies to both add and to accommodate more National Guard in this area. We will also work with the National Guard to continue their strategies of adding more miles of razor wire and anti-climb barrier. To also recognize another branch of government in Texas that is a partner in this effort, and that's the legislative branch. The tools and strategies that DPS, the National Guard, that I and others have to do anything to secure the border would not exist if it weren't for the efforts of the members of the Texas House of Representatives. I want to have some of them speak at this time, including the Chair of House Appropriations, Chairman Greg Bonnet.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, thank you for your leadership on this issue. I remember in mid-2021, the governor asked to visit with me in his office. He had already initiated Operation Lone Star, and what he shared in that visit was that the problem at the border was of a magnitude that we had never before experienced. And efforts and initiatives we had taken in the past were simply going to be insufficient. We needed a new plan, and it was going to require great resources. And since that moment, with Governor Abbott's leadership and with Speaker Phelan's leadership, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and all of the members of the House of Representatives that you see here, we have been unwavering in our commitment to step into the gap and to address a chaotic crisis where the federal government has refused to address and enforce our immigration laws. When you look at the appropriations for border security under the 4 years of the Trump administration in Texas, that was $1.6 billion. For the 4 years of the Biden presidency, Texas is appropriating $11.6 billion to do the same thing. And what we're seeing is that that deterrence does work. And the park in which you're standing right now is proof positive of where once there was chaos and several thousand people a day coming across, it has slowed to an almost non-existent number. So it can be done. When you break down the effort, about $3.1 billion goes into barriers and border infrastructure. About $200 million, because Texas has banned sanctuary cities in our state, goes to transporting illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities in other parts of the United States. And the balance is spent on the Texas Military Department and the Department of Public Safety for human resources and operations, and we thank them for the great work that they're doing. And the thing that everybody should understand is that the governor, the speaker, lieutenant governor, and all of the members who you see before you stand firmly committed that as long as there is an absence of the federal government doing its job to secure our international border, we will step up and take their place.
Thank you very much. Next is Representative Spiller.
Yes. Come on up. There you go. Texans know that the Biden administration has completely failed and refused to secure our border and enforce federal immigration policy. Our cries for help, our demands for help have been ignored. We've had enough in Texas. And so with my help, I carried, and we, with the group here today, passed, and with Governor Abbott's signature, passed SB 4, the strongest border security bill in the history of our state and the history of our nation. For the first time ever, we're allowed to prosecute people coming into our state illegally from a foreign nation if they cross it someplace other than a lawful port of entry. It's a landmark bill that allows Texans to protect Texas, allows us to return those that arrive here illegally and to prosecute and incarcerate those that refuse to comply. And so it's completely constitutional because it's in compliance with the precedent set in the Arizona case. It's not preempted by existing federal immigration law. It's not in conflict with federal immigration law that's in place. And mostly, Texas has the right, the constitutional right and authority to secure its border. And so we're proud of that bill. The Biden administration continues to fight us. They're spending more effort to fight us than they are to secure the border. And we look forward to that fight in court. I know his Department of Justice has filed a suit to contest that. To that, I would say bring it. We're ready for that fight. And so I would look forward to continue with the opportunity to work with this group of conservative representatives to continue to protect Texas and our country. Look forward to working with Governor Abbott and his leadership. We thank him for that and the job that he's done so that Texas leads the way to show others how we protect our state and our country.
Thank you, Representative. And now Representative Triceclair.
Every single legislator standing here represents a border district because every one of our districts is impacted by what comes across this border. Every state in our country is a border state because there is no state in the United States that is not impacted by the drugs, by the weapons, and by the humans that are trafficked across this border. American children are dying every day of fentanyl in every single state that comes across this border. Women who are being trafficked across this border are sold into sex slavery every day and trafficked through the cartel network across our country. And let me make one thing very clear. There is not a single person coming across that is free. Every single one of them is paying a very dear price to the cartel. They are paying with their money, they are paying with their bodies, and they are paying by being sold into indentured servitude. And President Biden is not just supporting it, he is encouraging it. Instead of protecting Americans, he is protecting the cartels. They are making more money off of his failure at the border than they ever have before. And Governor Abbott and the Texas legislature are stepping into that gap. And let me tell you, we will not give up. Texans are no stranger to being put under pressure, to having to stand up for what we believe in. And this is our moment. Governor Abbott is supported by Republican governors from across this country, many of whom are sending troops here to help us. The real heroes are the DPS officers in the Texas National Guard who are serving every day away from their families to make sure that Texans and every American are safe. And the legislators behind me are ready to give the governor the tools and the resources and the funding that he needs to keep this fight going. This is the #1 issue, not just to my district, not just to this state, but to Americans across the country. And so to every American out there, Texas has your back. Governor Abbott has your back, and Governor Abbott is doing the job that President Biden refuses to do, and we will never give up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and a big thank you to all these members of the Texas legislature. Texas would not be in a position to do what we're doing without them and the laws they pass, the efforts they've undertaken. And so I thank all of you all very much for what you've done, for being here, and what we will continue to do. With that, we'll take a few questions.
Governor, the president we were sent, he talked about an announcement. What was the announcement? Have we already heard that announcement, or is there something else that you would like to add to, the importance of being here with all of us here?
Well, For one, the importance of the people who join me today is the fact is the wire that you see preventing illegal entry, the Connex boxes that you see, the soldiers that you see, the Texas Department of Public Safety that you see, none of that would be here but for the people who stand with me today. As far as future announcements, listen, we being my office, we're working with the Texas National Guard on strategies to make sure that we're going to find ways that we will be able to both add and accommodate more soldiers being deployed in this area. And more details will be provided in the future.
At what point, Governor, would you be willing? I mean, you're a Christian person. A lot of people, even Democrats are Christian, something like that. So, without going too deep into religion, there will be a moment where you'll be willing to sit down and have a conversation at least with the opposite side as to, meet me here, I'll meet you there. Is there a possibility of that?
So let's be clear about two things. One is, I've attempted that. I have provided 8 letters to President Biden and his administration asking for certain actions. I've received exactly 0 response. One of those letters I handed to him personally, to his hand. It was a single page. It was not complicated, and it explained exactly what needed to be done in order to secure the border. At that same meeting, I handed the exact same letter to Secretary Mayorkas, who said that he would work with us, and of course he has not. So the Biden administration has done nothing to work with us, despite me reaching out on 8 different times. That said, there is a key factor that we insist on, and that is the beginning of our discussions starts with the enforcement of the rule of law. There are laws on the books as we speak right now that don't need to be added, that don't need to be changed, that do 2 things. It denies illegal entry into the United States of America, and it requires the president, the executive branch, to detain them if they do get in illegally. Those 2 laws are not being followed. Negotiations begin once the Biden administration starts enforcing the laws. I'll get you both.
Governor, is there any plans right now from the state of Texas to expand similar operations that you are seeing here in Shelby Park? I know you are touting the success in the plummeting of illegal crossings. Are any plans right now to expand similar operations where Texas officials will seize control of certain parts of the border right now?
So, yes, we are working on expansion plans to expand the successful operations that we've seen in certain locations that deter illegal immigration. And some of those will be announced after they occur. Others will be announced beforehand. But just know this, and that is the National Guard is relentless. On a daily basis, they're adding more razor wire barrier, more anti-climb barrier, more other ways to repel people from trying to enter illegally. And I've got to emphasize this, and that is in doing so, there's actually been a dramatic reduction in drownings in the river by more than 50%. If people are enticed to cross a treacherous river, they will cross that river and some will lose their lives. One thing we know for a fact, right behind you is a bridge that people are walking across as we speak. No one drowns on a bridge. No one gets cut by razor wire on a bridge. If people tried to enter the country through the pathway created by Congress as the pathway into the country, lives would be saved.
And with the Biden administration right now is weighing the decision whether to pursue legal action regarding the operations here in Shelby Park. Whether the Biden administration pursues a legal action, would that affect any decision made by him?
So I actually hope the Biden administration takes legal action about this area, because I want to make one thing perfectly clear. One reason why this area is occupied by the state of Texas is to prevent the Biden administration from any further violation of federal law on this Texas land. They are violating 2 laws required by Congress. Congress requires the federal government to deny illegal entry. The Biden administration used this park to aid illegal entry into our country. And then secondly, you saw the masses, the thousands that they allowed together in this park for processing and then to be sent elsewhere in the United States. That's mass parole. Congress has specifically prohibited mass parole into the United States. What Texas is doing right now is we are the ones actually enforcing laws passed by Congress. Biden is breaking those laws. And we look forward to our day in court where we are able to tell America the way that Joe Biden is violating the laws that are on the books by Congress right now. I get her. I told her I'd come to her. I'll come back to you here in a second.
We have several concerns from people who spoke today, as well as yourself, about what and who is coming across the border. There's also been concerns as well as questions about a Venezuelan gang called Team de Aragua. Do we know if anyone that has been apprehended in Texas has been part of that gang?
So in that gang in particular, I don't have information about that, and I know that DPS would be able to get you that answer specifically. However, I do want to tell you this. We know that DPS is arresting dangerous gang members all the time, including they arrested a MS-13 gang member who was on the terrorist watch list. And we know that there are terrorists and people on the terrorist watch list who seek to cross the border all the time. Under Joe Biden's tenure, there's been an all-time record number of people on the terrorist watch list who were apprehended. But here's the key fact. If you're on the terrorist watch list, they're going to pay extra money to the cartels to not be apprehended. What Joe Biden does not know, what the FBI does not know, is the number of people on the terrorist watch list who were able to evade detection, enter the United States illegally, and are moving around the country with the potential to cause catastrophic harm.
Last question.
Do you have plans for the future besides that you have right now? Do you have any plans to ensure that the border, or that is the next?
So the next steps is to, I'm working with the National Guard on plans as we speak right now to expand the National Guard effort along the border region. We're going to work on strategies to ensure the capabilities of the National Guard to add more soldiers, more resources, more capabilities so they can be even more successful.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all.
All right.
Appreciate you.
See you soon.
I know what your check goes to.
Yes. Of course.
Of course. Here, you want with that or this? There we go. Here we go.